Hey, friends, it is go time. We are here with another edition of the Webinar Wednesdays in the ChurchCon group. My name is Kenny Jahng, your captain for today. We had Katie Allred steering the ship, but today I took over the reins, and guess what? I nabbed a good friend of mine's, a legend, as some say on the streets. Uh, Rich Birch is with me here today. Welcome, Rich.
A legend. Come on. Hopefully it's not for bad things, but glad to be here, Kenny. You know, you sent me the invite. I said, sure, I'll be there. What do you need me to do?
We're going to cause some trouble today because we got a hold of the keys to the live in the group. So one of the things that I want to just touch base on, Rich, is the thing that we're going to talk about today is what's coming up in February. I've got it on my ChurchCom wall calendar. Actually, I'm going to use this to show you my beautiful.
Everyone should buy one of those. They're great.
Yes,
you can wipe stuff off them, put on all your things, plan everything out. They're great.
So on my calendar, I've got February 9th through the 12th. It's coming up, Engage Conference, one of the largest conferences of the year. Church Tech is the actual topic. And as we know this year, tech and church have collided. And it's one of those things, Rich, I wish we had like those celebrity baby things. If you had the headshot of a church and headshot of tech and you put them together, what's the baby that comes out? It's like,
yes.
this is it. 2021 is the result of that. And Rich, you're a speaker this year. You're one of the
I am
highfalutin influencers that are going to share some wisdom with us.
Nice. No, I'm so glad to be a part of it. It'll be great. It's a great conference. You know, the whole team has done such a fantastic job for years. When they asked me to be a part of it, I said yes. I don't do a lot of these, but was super honored to be a part of it, and excited that Church Comms is a part of that.
Absolutely. So we love Tyler Smith and his team that have been running Engage. This year, we've stepped up to partner with Tyler's team because we're finding that this is such a sore need to support our leaders in our community. Now, I don't know if you know, I logged on this morning, Rich. This is a little bit like one of those humble brag things. We now have, it says officially on Facebook, on my page here, 28.0K members. We hit 28,000 members.
Dude, that's amazing. That's great. That's so good.
And the thing is that if you talk, I keep on saying that. I make fun of Katie, but I feel like this is going to happen one day. I say to Katie actually thinks that all 28,000 people are family members. And like if she could come over for Thanksgiving, she would. But one day.
You've got 28,000 because you love them. That's great.
Katie loves every single one of the members. I do too. This is just an amazing community. So this is why we're resourcing that. So I wanted to bring you on, honestly, to highlight what's being shown and presented at the conference because I don't want people to miss it. Now, let's show some social proof. I think there's over 10,000 people that have registered for the event. It's completely free.
That's great.
You can get it at it's engageconference.church, or the easiest way is churchcommunications.com/engage. If you go to churchcommunications.com/engage, you'll be able to register for the conference. Rich, can you just share with us, because you've got a thought leader topic that you're bringing up that we've bantered back and forth for the last couple of months on. I think you're going to go a little bit deeper on. What are you going to talk about at the conference this year?
Yeah, so we saw, with COVID, we saw an acceleration of a whole bunch of different trends that were kind of impacting our churches before, but COVID has accelerated those things. That's when we first started saying that last spring, people were like, I don't know if that's really true. But now that's just, everyone understands that. That's true. There were things, and so we've seen this in this particular case, technology. A year ago, we did a study as executive pastors, and we found it was like high 90% of churches invested heavily in the last year in technology to, really upgrade what they're doing on Church Online. There was a number of those kinds of factors. Well, in my talk, what I'm trying to do is highlight a factor that I'm seeing in conversations that I'm having. Mm-hmm. And in fact, literally earlier today, I was in another conversation, just because of the work I do with churches across the country. I often find myself kind of having these sidebar phone calls or, Instagram chats or, conversations. And so there's a trend that is on the horizon. It's like a dawning trend. And in the same way, if your church wasn't doing church online in January, 2020. Kenny and and myself and all kinds of people were telling you should have been doing church online. Then within 3 months, everyone agreed, oh gosh, now I've got to be doing church online. I think this trend that we talk about in my talk is the same way. We can talk about it now, what it is. But right now, where you're starting to hear people talk about it, I do think a year later, we're all going to look back and say, oh my goodness, that was the thing that happened in 2021 and 2022. And I think it's at the same kind of scale as the shift to church online. So that's the kind of the hook. But I think it's a huge trend. We're talking about it, and that's really where my talk is framed for Engage.
One of the things, Rich, I used to say earlier on in the pandemic, but it's like ingrained in my head right now. The talking point I say now is that this year has been revenge of the nerd, right?
That's so true, so true. Well, I told my kids when they were younger, I always joked and said the nerds win in the end. Just remember that the nerds win in the end, and that's been very true this year, right? Like at the end of the day, that all of our churches are way more, technologically savvy now than we were a year ago. And I think that's a good thing. And I think there's an opportunity for us to accelerate that trend, to keep looking at how do we, do that better.
Now, one of the things that, and I want you to maybe tip the hat a little bit on some of your talk a little bit, but one of the things that I think has been difficult for some members that I've talked to in our community is they got the vision, right? Like at the front, if you're in comms,
yes,
you get, because there's friction on a daily basis of trying to get the word out. And the pressure now is that you have to go digital, et cetera. So they get it. What's your advice talking to both senior leaders and also coaching teams? How do you flip the actual mentality of senior leadership when they don't fully embrace reality, what's going on today? For us folk on the front line doing the comps, do you have any?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. So I think there's two things. First of all, I think, and so I've spent most of my ministry career being in that second seat. So, not being the lead pastor, not being the person in charge. And, one of the things I learned early on and continue to coach other people who are in those seats to think about is you've got to worry about what your supervisor is worrying about. So, you've got to worry about, in this case, what are the fears of the lead pastor, of the executive pastor? What are they concerned about? And then you've got to show comms, in this case, as an answer to those problems. You can't come to them and say, hey, these are the things, we need to set up a new Clubhouse channel because it's cool, because all the kids are doing Clubhouse. They'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. What they are interested in is engagement. They're interested in how are we getting more people connected. They're interested in how we're growing. They're interested in increasing revenue. So, you've got to think about whatever it is, whatever communications initiative you are interested in, you've got to think about it from their perspective. So that's the first thing. And then, the second thing, I think, frankly, the way you gain influence is by consistency over an extended period of time with your supervisors. You keep working, keep doing your thing, keep delivering on your stuff, and that will gain influence. That will, continue to, people will listen to you more. I don't think, sometimes I think on the comm side, we, because we are in it all the time, we're in thinking about what the latest, technology, blah, blah, blah is. It's easy for our people to write us off, or it's easy for, people to get written off in church comms. But you know what, if you were to focus on just delivering week in, week out, that would gain influence. So those would be a couple things I would think. And there's probably those kind of things. I'm assuming people who are listening in, people who are part of church comms, you're happy that your church has done more online this year than you have in the past, but there's another 8 things that you think the church should be doing.
800 things, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's okay to articulate those things, but I would be looking again backwards from what is your supervisor, what is your lead pastor, how do you connect that to the vision, show the logical connection between what God's calling the church to do, and to start with that.
Awesome. Now, let's talk about your talk just a little bit. I don't want to give away the entire secret sauce, but can you just tip your hat as to that thing? So, because I want people to understand before they get to the actual events, who else should they actually invite to actually say, oh, you know what? I just heard Rich Birch, and he's going to be talking about this topic. It's going to be worth your time, friend, peer, leader.
Right.
that you probably want to catch his talk, like, because there's going to be tons of content and there's tons of great stuff. But one of the challenges for these events is like trying to figure out who really needs to be in the room so you can have the conversation afterwards, right? Like, it's almost like, how do you stack the deck in your favor for those conversations afterwards because Rich spoke into this topic or caused this conversation to happen, right?
Right. So, yeah. When you look at, if you go to Engaged, what is your website?
Churchcommunications.com/engage.
So go there now, and you'll see the list of speakers, and you'll notice that I'm the very last speaker. I am the bottom of the pile. Everyone is better than me. So if you're interested in what I'm saying, everyone else is going to be way better because I'm literally at the bottom of the pile. So the thing I'm talking about is this. So the trend that I think we're seeing now and will just accelerate, is going to accelerate, particularly in 2021 and 2022, is a huge turnover, particularly in senior leader roles. So at the level of like lead pastor, executive pastor, those people, leader type people, we're going to see a turnover in those folks. And so give you an example. Literally today, I had a friend call me, executive pastor, a large church, and there was some stuff he wanted to talk about. He said there's two things. One is the stuff that I want to talk about in the church, but then there's something personal. And he said, listen, I'm thinking about my next thing. I'm trying to think about where I'm going next, and wanted some advice around that. I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation in the last year. It feels like I've had that conversation more in the last 6 months than I have in the last 6 years. That is happening. So what does that mean? That means for you and me, our leadership pipeline, who we're bringing up behind us, is more important than ever before. I would anticipate that the people who are in this group, who are church comms people, a bunch of you are going to get what did they call that? They called that a battlefield promotion. You're going to get you're going to go from being a sergeant to being a captain this year because the person that supervises you is going to leave and go somewhere else. That's going to happen. So, but the problem is, if you're not working now to work on who are you passing your ministry down to, then you're going to get caught in that pinch because they're going to give you a promotion, but then you're not going to have any way to backfill what's done for you. So in my talk, I go into some, which this part we don't need to get into. They can actually watch the session, but I get into some really practical ways. I like to be super practical, which is probably why I'm at the bottom of the list. But they, I get into some real practical ways that everyone can do this. But this is a huge issue. And again, I started talking about this publicly at the end of last year. And we're starting, not that it's like, I realize there's like confirmation bias. Now we're seeing more and more people, more and more folks who are out there in this sphere saying the same thing, which is, man, we are about to see a massive amount of turnover. You just saw it yesterday with Amazon, right? Amazon turned over, right? So CEO, guy who founded Amazon, Jeff Bezos, says, you know what? I want to focus on my side projects full time. That's what I want to do. I want to shoot people into Mars. I want to run a newspaper. I want to do this. It's not that he wants to stop working. He just wants to reorganize his time. COVID has made more people ask that question than have been asking it for 10, 15 years. I really think since 9/11, there was the same kind of thing post 9/11 where there was this like, what is the world really all about? Is this what I want to do? Do I want to keep doing this? And we're seeing the same thing on this front. So yeah, turnover. How are we giving your ministry away? How are you developing other leaders? All those things are critically important.
Yeah, and then just systems, processes that all need to then fall into alignment with vision, mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Purpose, right? All that kind of stuff really comes into play. And then I just like, on my side, and I know you love nerding out on this too, is just building those systems, using technology to scale what we are doing in terms of outreach to, and I call it stranger ministry. Dude, it's not like guest VIP people, attendees. It's like, it's not visitors. They're strangers in your community that we want to actually become friends with, right? And we got to figure out how to reach them even further and faster. But I love what you're saying. Like that Amazon thing, I think threw everyone for a loop. It was like, it was kind of like a surprise that Jeff said that he's gonna, move on. It's interesting to see what's going to happen afterwards. But yeah, I think that those implications, seeing what's happening out there, is not just happening out there in the marketplace; it's happening in ministry too. And so I'm looking forward to your talk to be able to share that with
Thanks,
others.
man.
This thing is bigger than we think, though, right? Like, this is the one thing that I like. How do you, like, if we had a highlighter for the internet, I'd pull it out and like
yes.
Right?
Yes,
like, this is not one of those things that you should really take casually, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. I think so. It's in the same way. The reason why I parallel it with the church online thing was, so what we learned in 2020 is that every church should have been doing church online.
Yeah.
That's just true. And I don't think anyone debates that. The people who on, March 1st were like, oh, church online is terrible, I never do that. All of those people are doing church online today. The same, and we all know that we should be working to give away our ministry to the next generation, to give away our ministry to other people, to train other people up. That includes you, dear graphic designer, church communications person. I've said this to so many staff over the years. Does not matter what, if you're employed by a church, your worth to our church is your ability to release other volunteers, regardless of what you're doing. So you should be giving this away. I was talking to a team member earlier today, and we came up against a problem. Hey, we got to do some stuff, and they were like, "I'm not. My team doesn't have enough time." They were talking about calling people. My team doesn't have enough time to do all that, and they're like, maybe we need to get a bunch of people to do that. I'm like, yes, that is what your team should be doing. Is working to get volunteers plugged in to make this happen. It's that core idea. Again, I think writ large, because we're going to experience that on so many levels in this coming year. In a normal year, we see, maybe 15% seems to be the study of turnover in church leaders. I wouldn't surprise me if it's double or triple that in this year. It's going to be high.
I really wish we had some stats on that, because I honestly feel like we have a recurring Monday post in our group for job postings, and usually that's for vacancies, but we are almost on a weekly, if not daily basis. Actually, I remember Katie just texted me yesterday or 2 days ago that 3 people reached out to her yesterday, and then 2 people the day before, asking for jobs. Like, the people are moving and trying to find jobs because there's vacancies, and so all that stuff is coming to play. I think those are trends that we all need to be, and again, it's not just for the senior leadership or the executive committee to be worried about. It's everyone. You need to start thinking about this. Let me just pull on screen. We've got the website. If you go to churchcommunications.com/engage, you'll see.
Keep scrolling.
Let's look at the 4 days left. Let's look at the speakers. We got an impressive speaker lineup here. I'm looking forward to Alan Dion Wilson of InstaChurch.
I follow him. He's great.
There's a bunch of great
Katie, Kenny, Greg Atkinson. Come on, everybody. Dave Adamson. And then that last line.
Rich Birch. I paid Tyler a little extra to put you in the bottom one.
Yes. Now that explains it.
Now, I will say, though, Rich, you must benefit from the last name Birch, because alphabetically, you're always like at the top of the list.
Yes, I do. Most of my life being a Birch, I end up at the top of the list. And it's got nothing to do with anything than just my name.
So just to go over, so there's over 30 talks. The session topics is a wide range. If you guys are thinking about this is just for like tech nerds, IT, no, it's not. It is the whole gamut of, it's almost like business technology, not like tech, like infrastructure technology.
Right.
We're talking about YouTube, website stuff, Facebook stuff, texting, of course, with Text in Church, live streaming stuff. That's always a popular topic right now. But leadership issues is one of those things that we're talking about. Follow-up systems, Instagram management tools, Twitter giving. This is going to be a really good event. Again, this roster of speakers for this year is quite amazing. I'm looking forward to it. And again, it's completely free, absolutely free. There's one other thing that I saw here. Where is it? I think it's at the top.
It's quite a curated list. I know I was bugging. I'm bugging you about the list of speakers, but it really is an amazing list of speakers. There's so many on there. I'm looking forward to learning from. We're doing great stuff. So it's great stuff.
This is happening every year. I just wanted to share, like, if you actually have never been to this event before, take some time to look at the testimonials that everyone else has actually said about the previous years. It's just a really, really, really good experience, and there's absolutely no risk. I think that's the one one thing that everyone needs to see is that there's no risk for any of this because it's completely free. So sign up right now. And again, Rich, you've been in that leadership role. Can you just encourage everybody in this last couple of minutes that we have together that this is not just for staff, right? Like,
right.
when you're doing leadership development in churches, aren't volunteers part of it? And then here's the other question. I had a question last week about this, and I wonder what your opinion is. I'll tell you what I told that person. But someone said, should we give our donors, our high capacity donors, access to this? And so I don't know what your answer is to that, because sometimes
that's a great question.
You don't want donors to be in the muckety muck of how churches run.
Yep. The making of the sausage.
But at the same time, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So is this a leadership development type of resource that you think is just for the pastor, the leadership team and staff, or is it beyond?
Yeah. Good question. So I'll answer that in two ways. First of all, to the senior leaders, which hopefully there's some listening in, that you got schooled this year on the technology front, that what happens on Facebook Live, you're now thinking about the difference between Facebook Live and YouTube and all these other channels. You weren't thinking about that. Now it's a critical part of what you're doing. You should attend this conference, even if you don't tell your team, because you're you don't want you don't want to let them know you're learning. This would be a great thing. Would be a great jumpstart for you to get kind of in on all the conversations that people are having. So as a senior leader, don't delegate this one to just people on your team. You should go to this. It would be a great thing for you to be a part of. And then, I do think it's a good idea. I would think particularly we all know those volunteers in our church who are they've done everything. And there's this interesting thing, as they do more and more things, they can get to the point where then it's they go from positive to cranky to negative because they've done everything. I think this could be actually great for those people to say, hey, could you, to your superstar volunteers, say, could you attend this conference? I'll get you a registration. It's completely free. You're telling them it's free. And maybe ask them to summarize. What are some key lessons for you? What are some things that you're taking away? And give them empower them to do some learning and then to come back. This could be great for folks on your board to say, hey, maybe there's a couple people on your board. You could say, hey, why don't you attend this? And then come back at our next board meeting with a 10-minute presentation on 3 questions we should be asking as a church because of the things we learned at Engage. It's great content. You've got great people. Everybody that they pulled together has got something to say, which is fantastic. It really will help push your ministry forward. So I think it's good for those people for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for spending some time with us today, Rich. Just before you leave, in advance of that, you've got tons of resources that you actually offer for free, and you publish so many things. Can you just share with us some of the best ways that people can get a glimpse of the genius and the wisdom that you share at Unseminary and other places? You've got tons of stuff. And
now I got to give you money. Now you're talking so nicely about it. I'm just kidding.
And there's one milestone I do want to celebrate with you. So please share us, how do we get more Rich Birch thinking here on this leadership?
Yes. Yeah, so we do, we do blogs and podcasts. We have courses and all that. It's just at the banner unseminary.com. Stuff you wish they taught you in seminary. So just unseminary.com. You could pick us up there. We have a weekly podcast. Actually, bi-weekly, happens twice a week. Podcast. We'd love to have you in on that.
And so it's www.unseminary.com.
Yep.
And then you have actually a podcast that's been running under the same name, right? Where is it available?
Yeah. So it's available on everywhere that podcasts are available. So, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Microsoft, wherever you get your podcast. And we just crossed 1.5 million downloads, which is a lot. Early on, I used to joke. I would run into people and they'd say, oh, I listen to your podcast. And I would say, oh, you and my mom. I wondered who the other person was. But that's apparently not true. When you get 1.5 million downloads, there's apparently more than my mom, unless she's really refreshing it lots. It's fun. I love it. It's really, we dive deep with practitioners. The goal is every week we're bringing you a different practitioner who we think is doing something super unique that should challenge your thinking as a leader. So it's both to inspire and equip you. So we'd be honored to have your listeners come and drop by. There's a lot of communication stuff in there. It's kind of taken from the slant of an executive pastor, but it's a lot of that kind of communication stuff.
I love it. And how many articles do you know how many articles you have on your site? You're a prolific writer.
Yeah, we might be over 1,000. The last time I looked, we were over 800. So yeah, we might be up over 1,000 now. It's something like that. It's a lot.
And then I don't want to leave because this is the one thing. This is the one thing I think everyone. Look, I want to promote this one because this one has changed my thinking a lot.
Thanks, Kenny.
Give 30 seconds on this.
Yeah, so Church Growth Flywheel is so the core of the podcast is listening to senior leaders from fast-growing churches. What we did was compress all those learnings down into a book. And the kind of thesis of it is fast-growing churches don't think of it as a silver bullet. They think of it as a system. They think it as a flywheel, a number of things that they do repeat over and over and over. And so we pulled apart 5 things that your church could do repeat consistently to help grow. I was going to call the book "How to Grow Your Church: How to Get a Bigger Church in 1,000 Days," but nobody would buy a book named that. So Church Growth Flywheel sounds more impressive.
I will say though, it is like a legit playbook, right? Like some other friends or authors, they actually, to be honest, between you and me, they write booklets.
Sure.
This isn't a booklet. This is actually really practical stuff. I love the fact that you have, I don't know, it's just the way it's broken down. There's the rapid action steps at the end of the chapters that I've actually used in coaching sessions with some of my clients with church teams. And so it's hyper practical. Look it up on Amazon. It's Church Growth Flywheel. And also sign up for our conference so we can get a little bit more of Rich Birch in 4.5 days. 4 days left. So
that's crazy. That's crazy. Good stuff, Kenny. And again, I appreciate what you do. You do so many. We get a chance to work together on a lot of stuff, but I particularly appreciate what you and Katie do in the Church Comms group. You're helping coalesce an incredibly important tribe. I've said this before. Church communicators are church growth specialists. They just don't go by that name, and so super important role in the church. It was important before; it's even more important in the world we live in now. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Rich. And as we round out this thing, I just want to share with everybody, SheLeadsChurch.com is actually coming up in March. It's another free conference for women leaders. If you go to She Leads Church and sign up, again, we've got a whole roster of speakers that Katie Allred and Katie Cole has been able to curate and assemble for you guys. And again, look at this. It's absolutely free. It's free because of the sponsors that we have available. You can actually see the ones here that are supporting this program, and the ones that support the sponsorship in our monthly membership in the group are the ones that allow us to continue to produce this type of stuff. So thank you so much to the sponsors. Thank you so much for Rich for being with us today. Really appreciate everything that you've done. We'll catch you here soon. Next week, another speaker from Engage. Actually, next week, we're going to do it on Monday as another highlight before we get into Engage Conference on Webinar Wednesday. It's going to be Webinar Monday next week. Thanks, folks.
Nice.
Appreciate it. Everybody,
stay cool,
stay well. Remember, be social, stay social.